All right, everybody, an evening live. This is so exciting. We're really doing this because we had some construction going on, and so the noise was not ideal for an earlier broadcast. But this is also exciting because Biden is going to attempt to speak, and we're going to be able to process that. And I'm so glad that you guys want to watch that live with me. Leading up to that, though, you guys, so you totally remember that guy the night that they attempted to assassinate Donald J. Trump at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. His name was Greg Smith. He was the first person to be interviewed, conveniently, by BBC. They always seem to be the men on the scene when these terrible terroristic tragedies take place. And you remember him. I'm showing you a photo here right now. He's got the MAGA hat on, and I think that MAGA hat has fake hair attached to it. That's not his real hair, and it's orange. And he was incredulous. You'll recall the interview. He was just going, there's just no way this is happening. I watched the guy, I watched the shooter climb up. I signaled to the Secret Service. I signaled to the local police, and nobody did anything. Well, then I thought to myself, isn't it weird that we haven't heard from Greg Smith since? Is that not an odd thing that we have not heard from Greg Smith since? Has any reporter or journalist done their duty and attempted to reach out to Greg Smith for a longer format interview? And so I sent a tweet out, hey, if anybody knows who Greg Smith is or where Greg Smith is, I would love to get in touch. And guess what? I got in touch with him immediately. So it certainly was not that difficult to get in touch with Greg Smith. Of course, what's actually going on is that they're trying to memory hole what has happened. They want to move on quickly. They want to talk about Kamala Harris. They want to talk about protests in D.C. They want to talk about Bibi Netanyahu. Anything, please, anything, except for what happened that night, when some people got caught trying to inspire a civil war and probably an even larger war. So what happened when I got in touch with Greg Smith? Well, I asked him a very particular question. I said, Greg, was there anything that the media was intentionally leaving out about the shootings? Surely you communicated what you saw, and you probably saw a lot more than you even presented that night to us. Surely they followed up with you. Was there something that you saw that they are not telling the American people? And he immediately said, yes. So I'm going to tell you guys what he told me. It's quite shocking. We're going to go through this. We are not going to let this go. Consider me the Nancy Grace of the Trump assassination attempt, because I'm telling you, I'm not going to let this one fly. That's what we have coming up tonight on Candace. I'm going to keep reminding you that Donald J. Trump is supposed to be dead. That is a reality. There was a plan put in place to make all of America watch live as their favorite former president, who is running for re-election, was shot on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. That didn't happen because, by the grace of God, he turned his head at the exact right moment. A lot of other things then ensued, and the BBC was on the ground, and they gave this interview or Greg Smith rather gave an interview to the BBC, and we, like I said earlier, he was just incredulous. He said, there's just no way. I can't tell you enough how much they completely allowed this to happen. He heavily implied that they allowed this to happen. So when I reached out to Greg, I said, what was the follow-up? Were you and your friends interviewed? Were you brought into an FBI bureau? Or did the feds arrive onto your doorstep asking for all of the information, asking for all of your footage? And here's what he told me. He told me, no, but the state police did that night. He said that night he sat in a police cruiser for hours and gave his testimony about what exactly it is that he saw. He said he even drew them a map. Physically, he drew a map as he was in the car. Here's where the shooter was. Here's where this was, blah, 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 blah. He also communicated to me that there was an unknown person who chose not to identify himself that also sat along in the police cruiser. Said he and his friends suspected that it might have been a Fed, but that person chose not to identify themselves again. And so when I asked that question, was there any information that the media seems to not be communicating that you saw that night? Here's what he said. He said, yeah, Candace, there is. It's the portion where I made it very clear that there was also a Fed of some description that was armed with a gun in a second-story building that was about 15 to 20 yards behind Thomas Matthew Crooks. So if Thomas Matthew Crooks is here, he's saying that 15 to 20 yards at a higher range, at a higher story rather, sat a Fed throughout the building. And he actually sent me this diagram I'm about to show you so that I could see what he was talking about. I said, I can't believe this. I can't believe I've heard stories about a second-story building that there may have been some Feds. It has not been clear to me that this was just 15 to 20 yards behind Matthew Thomas Crooks, right? So take a look at this. Take a look at this diagram that I'm showing you right now. You can see, and he is pointing, those are the two windows where the Feds, he is alleging, a Fed, one singular Fed, was in that window, and he very much, as you can see, would have had access to the assassin, the would-be assassin, rather. So what happened here? I said, how are you certain that that person was in fact a Fed? He said, well, because me and my friends, while we were drinking, we were looking up and we were going, oh, hey, it makes sense that this Fed is in the building. And they noticed that he had a sleeve tattoo. And they noticed this because when he perched out of the window, they saw his arms and they said, yeah, he's probably there to make sure we don't do anything crazy. You know, I don't know, but obviously it makes sense that there's going to be Feds surrounding everywhere. So you have to imagine his shock. You have to imagine his surprise when he then watched somebody scale a building with a gun, frantically tried to notify people. And that gunman, that Fed, is not taking any shots at Thomas Matthew Crooks. Does that seem strange to you? What's also strange to me, what in my head, I thought this is kind of weird because didn't we just watch Kimberly Cheadle testify that there were no Feds, or rather she said there was no Secret Service that were in a perimeter in front of the shooter, the would-be assassin? Let's run that back. It was actually when AOC was questioning Kim Cheadle. Take a listen.
Is there a standard perimeter that the Secret Service establishes around an event, or are those perimeters independently determined per event and scenario?
There is no standard. Every event and every venue is different and treated as such.
So each event has a different perimeter that is established depending on the logistics of that event. Now, you established earlier that the building upon which the shooter operated from was outside of that established perimeter, correct, for the Butler, Pennsylvania event?
It was outside of our secure perimeter, yes.
Now, that building was, I believe, 500. How far away was that building from the president?
It was approximately 200 yards.
200 yards. Now, the individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question is, why does the Secret Service perimeter, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
And so what I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
A perimeter was established, and even though there were buildings that were outside of that perimeter, it wasn't just that building. There were a number of buildings in the area, and there was overwatch that was created to help mitigate some of those buildings.
So now, I'll tell you why that's important, because there have been a lot of people that have said, like, yes, there was multiple shooters. And by the way, these aren't people on the internet that are developing conspiracy theories. This is CNN. They're already trying to memory hole this, but the day after the shooting, they confirmed that there were 3 different shooters. 3 different shooters that night, and we're supposed to assume one, obviously, was the would-be assassin, and then in the confusion, people that were trying to take out the would-be assassin. But here's what's interesting. I want you guys to take a listen to this. Some people have pointed out, and for those of you who know how to shoot, perhaps you hunt, that it's quite strange that when TMZ presented footage of Matthew Crooks taking the shots from the rooftop, he had no kickback. His head didn't go up. You don't see his arm go back when he fires the first shot. So I'm going to show you that. Now, again, we can't establish that for a fact. It's taken on an iPhone. Maybe it's grainy footage, and therefore we can't be certain if it didn't capture it. But I'm going to tell you, we slowed this down a few times, and I want you to look at this very closely because I've looked at it about 200 times today, and I am telling you, I do not see a kickback. Take a look at this. That's him up top. Look at this. Now, another thing that's interesting is that a person named Chris Martinson, he put together a very long video, which everybody should watch, and we'll include it in the links description after this video. But he basically broke down the different sounds. He too establishes that he's hearing 3 different guns, and that the first round of shots does not sound like the second round of shots that we hear. And he does a very good job breaking this down. But first, I want you to listen to the original shots that are fired so that you can hear this with your own ear, because it's actually better for you to analyze this yourself and go, well, actually, yeah, these do sound like they're coming from different weapons. So take a listen to this. And yes, you're going to hear yelling over this because we did not want to in any way edit the footage here. Take a listen.
Decide for yourself, does 1, 2, and 3, do they sound the same at all compared to the other ones that you hear? Okay, and remember, we already have the analysis from audio experts elsewhere saying there's a difference between weapon A and weapon B. And I can show you that the rounds fired from weapon B were also aimed at the stage. Okay, so this is important. 2 weapons, one fires a string of 3, another fires a string of 5 or 6, depending on how we count, and off they go. And they were also out hitting the crowd and headed towards Trump. Okay, this is important because now we do not have a lone gunman anymore. Okay, so listen up. Here we go.
Okay, so that's very interesting, right? You hear the first 3 shots, and then you hear a very quick round of shots, and they definitely do not sound the same. So I'm going to allow this guy again to break down those distinctive sounds that you're hearing, because it's just undeniable that we're hearing different weapons. And that would suggest that someone else was shooting. And again, there is a theory circulating that someone else took that first shot at Trump and was merely doing that in order to then be able to hoist the blame onto Matthew Crooks. Take a listen.
So we're going to take a closer look at the blue, the red, the blacks here and listen to these things. But once again, let's just listen very carefully, and we'll go back and forth until you're certain of this yourself. Here's just the first 3 shots from that video. I haven't done anything, no audit. I haven't done any enhancements. This is both of these audio pieces are exactly pulled straight from the video itself. Nothing else. I haven't boosted any. I haven't done any filtering. Raw files. Okay. So, and by the way, every instinct in me was to try and minimize all the screaming, but I was like, nope. That just add, like, what did you do? And then there's questions. These are raw files. Here's 1, 2, and 3 to start. Okay. Listen to that again. And one more time. Okay, now let's listen to the next string. Ooh. Yeah. Hear that? So 6 sounds different to me, but here's an interesting thing. 1, 2, and 3, besides being muffled and further away, it doesn't have echoes. Here we have, this is a shot here, this peak, oh, darn it, I don't have my thing up again. Here we go. So this here is a shot. This is an echo. Very clearly an echo, and a shot in an echo, and a shot in an echo. So this is actually critical evidence, because you hear that, there's echoes coming off. So that also allows us, again, to analyze where was this gun. But first up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound, totally different weapons. Okay, full stop. We have two separate weapons. Plus, we have no echoes coming off of the first three, and then we do have echoes coming off of the next set.
Now, to be clear, CNN already established that there were 3 different guns fired that night. So this is not like this guy's on this investigation and we can debate. And like, no, it's all just coming from one and there were 2. Like, they already said there were 3 distinct weapons. And I'm not sure why we're not seeing more questioning about that. Again, it seems to have been memory hold, because it does beg the question, why are we not getting a clear understanding of what exactly happened? Who fired first? Who fired from what distance? Who were the 3 people, or the 2 agents rather, that fired? And then, as you speak to people that are very familiar with guns, one such person on the PBD podcast who I'm friends with, Vinny Oshana, and he obviously served, he begins to speak, and he was an expert shooter, by the way. He begins to speak about how he perceived those acoustics as somebody who is very familiar with guns. I just want you to take a listen. Now, again, to be clear, this is just Vinny's theory, but I think it's an interesting one.
What I want you to tell me is, when you're hearing these sounds and echoes and
Yes.
boom, boom, boom,
3 different guns.
boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Yes.
How do you, as a shooter who's heard, how many shots have you heard in your life? How many weapons have you shot in your life? Think about all those moments of going and representing your unit in the Air Force as a professional shooter, going to contests. You were going all over the country, right? Competing. That sound, what does that sound mean to you?
Well, for the first pow. Pow is somebody that's looking down a sight, breathing, because there's 2 types of shots: inhale, pull, easy trigger squeeze, and then there's some people do it on the exhale. That's the first 2 sounded like someone that knows like what they're doing. The other one was just pop, 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 pop. It might have been a rifle, it might not have even been a rifle. And then the last one, that last one sounds like a high-powered rifle, like a kill shot. That's the last one.
So what do you guys think? It seems like we're not getting any answers. Obviously, Kim Cheadle has virtually said, she said nothing, really, other than, I'm just going to have to pass this over to the FBI. But when you're hearing from people who are really familiar with guns, when you're hearing from people who have served and telling you, this sounds like a higher powered weapon, this is a different sound of a different weapon, you can tell by the rapid pace, the first 3 sounds very controlled. Do you believe that? Do you believe that we're getting the full picture? Well, let me tell you the most surprising thing that Greg Smith told me. He told me that, again, all he saw in those windows was the person when he leaned out who was in that second-story window. He only saw one person, which I find to be quite a person in that window, and they saw his sleeve tattoo. And the next time that he saw that sleeve tattoo, it was because there was a person standing over the dead body of Thomas Matthew Crooks. So we're going to show you that photo with the man holding a sleeve tattoo, with a sleeve tattoo. Now, is that the guy that was on the roof directly behind him? The story that we're getting, by the way, because they are acknowledging that there were men in the second-story building, was that, yeah, there were men in that second-story building, or a man in the second-story building, but then once Matthew Crooks got onto the roof, they ran down. Does that make any sense? Can we just all use a little bit of common sense right now to determine whether or not what I just said makes any sense? So you have a perfect shooting distance 20 yards away from a shooter that is lower than you, because you're above him, and you see that he is on the roof, and rather than taking the shot and shooting him, you decide to go down to climb his ladder and then stand above him. Again, we are just not getting the full picture here, and it's very obvious that they want us to move on. I have given you my theory. I believe that the state attempted to assassinate Donald J. Trump in order to hoist us into the next world war. I've been saying this for months on my show, and I think people are now coming around to the fact that I have been correct. I've been saying this for longer. I've been saying this on my old show, that's very obvious that the elites want World War III, right? It's the only way that they can hit that great reset button every single time. You just have to bomb a bunch of stuff, cause chaos, and then you get to assert new dominance in the world, because you're not original enough to get dominance the correct way through your ideas. And so they've been itching for war with Russia. They've been itching for war with Iran. And the first thing that they tried to sell to us was that Iran had hatched some plan to assassinate Trump at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. Again, Does that make any sense to you? Like I said, Trump was supposed to die that night, and we were supposed to be all angry and emotional and reactive and say, yeah, now, rah, 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 we want war because we want justice for whoever did this to Trump. That was their plan. It failed because he is alive today. But don't worry, now they're still going to remind us, which is going to bring me, obviously, to Bibi Netanyahu in Congress today. But before we get to that, guys, I'm going to encourage you to check out our new store, which is on Sticker Mule. It's a great website. It's packed with awesome Candace Owens merch, including stickers, t-shirts, and much more. So go to stickermule.com/Candace and check it out now. A big portion of the sales will go directly to supporting the show, supporting our mission to empower communities and to promote free thought, allowing yourself the permission to think without fear of being called a conspiracy theorist. So whether you want to show your support or just grab some cool gear, we have you covered. Once again, go to stickermule.com/Candace. So go check it out now. All right, guys, let's get into this. Everything's trending on Twitter, obviously. In case you missed it, it'd be hard for you to miss it because I'm at a place right now where I just think that the left and the right have just become the same. Do you know what I mean? Is anybody else feeling that way, that like we're just actually the same reversed at different times, and we just like pick our issue in which we become leftists and we go, okay, this is the issue where actually I don't believe in free speech. I don't believe in free anything. And I think we should send our money overseas. Like that's like kind of what it feels like, and it's usually some social justice issue. But I particularly noticed this today because Bibi Netanyahu was set to address the House and the Senate, actually, a joint Congress. And leading up to this, obviously, people were heavily upset. We knew there were going to be protests. We knew that people that are pro-Palestine were going to be outside protesting his arrival. I think actually even somebody released maggots at the hotel that he was staying at in D.C. And of course, there's only one lone congressman who has been my favorite congressman for the last 3 years. I've had him on my previous show, Thomas Massie. He was the only person who said, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm not going to attend this because why do we need to have Zelensky addressing Congress? In fact, Israel addresses our Congress more than any other country, at least since the last 20 years. They tend to address our Congress a lot. And I just don't see what the point is of that. Well, now we know it's because they want more money and they need to emotionally convince you why, as the American people, you should be okay getting to work and constantly sending your money overseas because there's some greater social justice narrative that needs to be fulfilled. So Thomas Massie right away tweeted this: today, Congress will undertake political theater on behalf of the State Department. The purpose of having Netanyahu address Congress is to bolster his political standing in Israel and to quell initial international opposition to his war. I don't feel like being a prop, so I won't be attending. Yeah, that's me. Like, that is where I'm at right now. I just think everything is a little fake and gay, as I say all the time. It's all performative. We are watching a show, and unfortunately, we are the characters in it. Like, we are the ones that are the most impacted by all of this. But I'm just so tired of watching the fake emotion of people in Congress, and when it's very obvious that all they care about is making their lobbyists happy, and there's no lobbyist that is happier than AIPAC, right? The American Israel PAC. So they tweeted instantly at him. You know, they've launched attacks on him. They've spent money trying to get him not elected, which is totally normal that we would just have them. They should have to register as a foreign agency. But they tweeted this once again. At Rep. Thomas Massie is standing with AOC and Bernie Sanders against our ally Israel. Oh, okay. I guess we're supposed to think that Thomas Massie, who has been the most consistent defender of the American people, defender of the American pocketbook, I should say, by voting against every foreign dollar overseas, no matter what country is involved. I guess we're supposed to think, oh, now he's AOC. Like, no, that's not going to work on me. I guess it works on some people. And he replied to AIPAC, good for him, because he has a spine. And he said, call me anything you want. I still won't be attending your war rally, because that's what it is, never-ending wars and a new reason to rally around the war because, oh my gosh, how could you not want war this time? 9/11, how could you not want war this time? What weapons of mass destruction, war this time? The Taliban, war this time? Zelensky, Russia, Putin, bad war this. How could you not? Look at the Ukrainians. Look at the amount of flags that people are putting in their ex-bios. How could you not feel something when they put that little flag in their bio? You monster. War just this time. Oh, Bibi Netanyahu, are you anti-Semitic? Are you like a Jew hater? How could you not want war October 7th this time? That's all we get. That is all the American people get all the time. We're such monsters. How could you not? Look, he traveled all this way. War this time. Like I said, everybody's feckless. So they just get in line, they do what they want because they're fearful. Maybe they got blackmail on some weird pornography website, captured, and now they're scared, and so they just vote according to how they're told to vote. We know that there are blackmail rings in D.C., so there's a little bit of that going on. Then there's just people who love the money that's just pouring into their coffers from AIPAC, every other lobby group, Big Pharma. Get the vaccine, it really works. No, what really works is the fact that you're able to spend the money that you're getting to tell people to get the vaccine. I'm sick of it. I'm just so sick of it. I'm bored. Beyond anything else, I'm bored of the lies being told to the American people. And of course, it's very obvious, like I said, they want to go to war. And that is why Bibi Netanyahu made sure to remind us when he took the stage that Iran almost killed Trump. Oh yeah, he knows that. Apparently he must be in on these meetings, these briefings. And if you want proof that it was Iran who was behind that assassination attempt on Trump, well, I will tell you guys, just trust the science. They said it, that Iran sent them a message, and we're not going to see the message or what it said, or they intercepted a message, whatever it was. Maybe Iran just sent them a post and said, hey, we're going to kill Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Trust the science. And of course, Iran came out and said none of this is true. Are the American people awake yet to the fact that they just make stuff up as they go along? Yeah, I am actually awake to the fact that they're just making stuff up as they go along. How convenient, by the way. How lucky is Bibi Netanyahu? He wanted to go to war with Iran, and then at the exact same time, Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump on live television. So now I guess we have to go to war with Iran. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Should Bibi Netanyahu buy a lottery ticket? Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying that because I guess I'm just supposed to be pro-Israel because, I don't know, AIPAC or something, or they're not funding me. Maybe for the right dollar, I'll just say all the stuff that the right says and the same stuff that the left says, and it's all so sickening. You should be sickened, and you should be especially sickened that their excuse for all of this is just to call you names. You're a terrorist sympathizer, a Putin sympathizer, a Putin puppet, an anti-Semite. Anyways, guys, I gotta stop ranting because Biden is about to speak. Let's cut to Biden.
Tonight from behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office. In this sacred space, I'm surrounded by portraits of extraordinary American presidents. Thomas Jefferson wrote the immortal words that guide this nation. George Washington, who showed us presidents are not kings. Abraham Lincoln, who implored us to reject malice. Franklin Roosevelt, who inspired us to reject fear. I revere this office, but I love my country more.
Are you
It's been the
noticing his
honor of
lips
my
are not
life
matching?
to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title.
Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing?
I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American
Like
task,
lips are not matching the words coming out of him.
perfecting our union. It's not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people.
Skylar, what do you see here?
We can never forget that. And I never have. I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. America's going to have to choose between moving forward or backward,
This looks
between
really
hope and hate,
weird.
between unity and division. We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy? In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter? I believe I know the answer to these questions because I know you, the American people. And I know this, we are a great nation because we are good people. When you elected me to this office, I promised to always level with you, to tell you the truth. And the truth, the sacred cause of this country is larger than any one of us.
Moving?
And those of us who cherish that cause, cherish it so much, a cause of American democracy itself, must unite to protect it.
Okay.
You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to
The
me
tie is weird.
that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president,
Go up and down like that.
my leadership in the
I
world,
thought it was like side to side.
my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy.
Like, what?
That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. But there's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices.
Is he dead? He's dead.
Yes, younger voices.
He's dead.
And
He can't
that
be
time
so
and
public
place
anymore.
is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place,
Weird.
no
It's just
place in
everything
America
else.
for political
I swear
violence
his, like, lips were
or
not
any
matching.
violence ever, period.
Some,
I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence, our planet from climate crisis that is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it. And I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform because this is critical to our democracy, Supreme Court reform. You know, I will keep working to ensure America remains strong and secure and the leader of the free world. I'm the first president in this century to report to the American people that the United States is not at war anywhere in the world. We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud nations to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine and doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history. I'll keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific. You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages,
should be
to
raining
bring
in
peace and
DC.
security to the Middle East and end this war.
and believe shouldn't be still.
We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained
Yeah.
all around the world. You know, we've come so far since my inauguration. On that day, I told you, as I stood in that winter, we stood in a winter of peril and a winter of possibilities. Peril and possibilities. We were in the grip of the worst pandemic in the century. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
It's raining.
But we came together as Americans.
Yeah.
We got through
Could
it.
be raining.
We emerged stronger, more prosperous, and more secure. Today we have the strongest
Lips and
economy in the
leaves would
world,
be
creating nearly 16 million new jobs, a record.
But he probably
Wages are
would
up.
never let him go live.
Inflation continues to come down. The racial wealth gap is the lowest it's been in 20 years. We're literally rebuilding our entire nation, urban, suburban, rural, and tribal communities. Manufacturing has come back to America. We're leading the world again in chips and science and innovation. We finally beat Big Pharma after all these years
He's
to
also
lower
not
the
starring.
cost of prescription drugs for seniors. And I'm going to keep fighting to make sure we lower the cost for everyone, not just seniors. More people have health care today in America than ever before. And I signed one of the most significant laws helping millions of veterans and their families who are exposed to toxic materials. You know, the most significant climate law ever in the history of the world. The first major gun safety law in 30 years. And today,
His ring is off.
the
something
violent crime rate is at a 50-year low. We're also securing our border. Border crossings are lower today than when the previous
You only have a
administration
ring?
left office. I've
Does
kept
it
my
only have
commitment
one?
to appoint the first black woman to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I also kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America and be a president for all Americans. That's what I've done. I ran for president 4 years ago because I believed and still do that the soul of America was at stake. The very nature of who we are was at stake.
That's right. He's not clear.
And that's still the case. America's an idea. An idea stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any
What's Twitter
dictator or
saying?
tyrant. It's the most powerful idea in the history of the world. That idea is that we hold these truths to be self-evident. We're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We've never fully lived up to it, to this sacred idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I do not believe the American people will walk away from it now. In just a few months, the American people will choose the course
not
of America's
stuttering at
future.
all.
I made my choice. I've made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President, Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country. Now the choice is up to you, the American people. When you make that choice, remember
Does
the
he
words
normally
of
have a
Benjamin
wedding ring?
Franklin's hanging on my wall here in the Oval Office, alongside the busts of Dr. King and Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. When Ben Franklin was asked, as he emerged from the convention going on, whether the founders have given America a monarchy or republic, Franklin's response was a republic,
Okay.
if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it. Whether we keep our republic is now in your hands. My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter, from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am. That's what's so special about America. We're a nation of promise and possibilities, of dreamers and doers, of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. I've given my heart and my soul to our nation, like so many others. I've been blessed a million times in return with the love and support of the American people. I hope you have some idea how grateful I am to all of you. The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands.
This is
The
just
power
not
is
his
in your
normal,
hands.
like, I mean,
The idea of
even
America
in a straight
lies in your
teleprompter
hands.
read, he always says a typo. Do you know what I mean?
You just have to keep faith, keep the faith. And remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's simply nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So let's act together, preserve our democracy. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
I am just gonna let the live chat here. I don't know. Weird, very weird. I'll tell you what I thought instantly was weird. I thought it was strange that he did not trip over his words, because even in a teleprompter read, Joe Biden, I don't think he has ever made it through a teleprompter read without misspeaking, pronouncing a word wrong, saying something funny, giving us an end quote. I don't know. That just felt very weird. I don't know what else to say other than it did not seem right. Something about that did not seem right at all. And I'm not sure why he implied there that he was going to let the next generation take care of things. He hasn't really spoken out about what led him to come to this decision. Is it just that, like the next generation wasn't on his mind at all when a couple of weeks ago he said that he was still going to run despite his horrible debate performance? I just don't understand. I'm trying to comprehend what we're listening to, where we were supposed to get an understanding of his thought process, what led him to this moment. Instead, we got a very rigid, robot-like speech that was clearly written by someone else. And something about that just felt extremely inauthentic to me. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Not a single word off prompter. Even Biden, when he's reading on prompter, will go off prompter. which is when he usually really fumbles the ball because he's saying stuff like, or something. That was like watching a robot. That was absolutely strange. And this may have been our fault because I know that some of you guys noticed it seemed like the words, like his mouth was moving faster or slower than the words. That may have been because we pulled it in. I'm not sure. But all I know is that all of that was weird, and you are justified in believing that all of that was weird. I mean, I don't know what to say other than I don't feel more comforted having watched that. I don't think that explains all of the circumstances. I don't know why he can't just confront all of that and say, hey, yes, I got COVID. This is what happened. I don't need to be this rehearsed in practice explaining to you. Once I got sick, I realized that it was time for me to sort of pass the baton, and Kamala is well suited. It just, I don't know, that just felt like the most inauthentic thing ever. And obviously what we're going to have happen now is a bunch of people are going to look into that very closely, people with better technological skills than I have. But I just am saying off the bat that it didn't sound like Biden. I see some people here are saying that they noticed he didn't have his ring. We did look that up right away, and it looks like he doesn't always wear his ring in addresses. So maybe that's just something that he wears sometimes and doesn't wear other times. Nothing going on there. I just didn't feel that that was the Biden that we're used to seeing. Even the teleprompter Biden that we're used to seeing always stutters. He has certain tics, certain motions, and that just didn't feel that way to me at all. So I will let you guys have at it and tell me what you guys think in the comments here. I'm going to get to some of your comments. By the way, I saw that somebody instantly wrote that it's currently raining in DC and they didn't see rain behind. Sure, I mean, it would be, I guess, dark enough outside. It would be like 8:16 p.m. over there. And that would maybe a reason that you wouldn't be able to see rain or be able to see the leaves blowing in the wind. I'm just trying to rationalize everything that we just saw. This person says, hold on one second, I gotta pull down this. Just checked AccuWeather. Okay, that's a ripoff of Clinton's 2000 DNC speech. Very interesting. I would like to look that up and see if that's correct. It says, everyone's saying this, check radar and wind speed, time swallowing sounds. This is AI generated deep fake. As I said, the internet will internet right away. This person says Sleepy Joe had AI lips for the first 5 minutes. Yeah, the first 5 minutes was especially strange. And again, I'm going to try to allow for maybe the tech was weird and that's why it came across that way, but something did not seem right. Kathy agrees. She writes, looking at body language, did he just speak for 5 minutes and not move his head in any meaningful way? Yeah, there's sort of a natural thing that happens when you're a human being. I think that's probably a good way to put it. When you're a human being, you sort of just move in a certain way and you speak, and I don't know, he just was lacking all of that. It was very strange. This person, Carl Silverberg, writes, pre-recorded. Yes, I could imagine it was pre-recorded because I don't think that he would be a one-take Sally. I don't imagine that he would have gotten through that again without a single fumble. And that would also explain away, if it was realistic that there should have been rain outside, that would explain that away. But I don't know, my director thinks that it was live. What was your reason, Mark, that you thought it was live?
The time on his watch was accurate, so either they have really high attention to detail or it was live.
So Mark is saying that the time on his watch was accurate, which, by the way, somebody would have been smart enough to just like put the timer, on 7 o'clock and get it going, and they were precisely on time, which is also something that's quite rare when it comes to Biden. Another person saying, where's his wedding ring? Sometimes it's the small details. He's being prompted by someone in front of him. He is looking up, not at the camera. Yeah, he's definitely looking up, but that's likely at a teleprompter. So that's not weird because this has been the most teleprompted presidency of my lifetime. Kat writes, definitely a stand-in, not the real Biden. Looks like a new facelift and makeup on the hands. I did feel that he had more color than he normally has and didn't look as frail as he normally looks. But again, that could just be a good makeup artist, you guys. I'm playing devil's advocate. This person says, I'm not trying to start nothing, but why does Joe look like an animatronic? Love you, Mrs. Owens. The hands are fake, says this person. Robot arms, fingers stiff AF. Candace, look at how dark blue his eyes are. It looks weird. Okay, I will say that was the first thing I noticed. His eyes were piercing blue when it first cut to him up close, and that felt different to me. But again, that could have just been a camera angle, guys. I'm rationalizing what we just saw, which felt creepy to me. It felt, I don't know, I think that's the right adjective. It felt creepy to me and inauthentic. Like I just could have just seen a robot busting out, like we're being taken over by robots, but they kind of look like humans. I think there might be a movie that was sort of like that, and they kind of, yeah, I think actually it was on Disney Channel. It was like Smart House. For all the kids who grew up with Smart House, I feel like that was like the scary robot who you think is your friend, but then is also going to take over your entire house and be your mommy. I didn't like that at all. Speaking of taking over our entire house, we definitely need something in today's economic environment. There's some people that are stressed providing for a family, and sometimes that feels overwhelming, and putting everyday expenses on a credit card only elevates that stress. You have to do something to end the cycle. I have the answer for you. Call my friends at American Financing. They are helping people just like you and me turn things around by using the equity in their homes to pay off that high interest debt. They understand what you're going through. They talk to people that are in your position every single day. American Financing is saving their borrowers an average of $854 a month. $854 a month is like a $10,000 raise at work. And they are closing some in as little as 10 days. So if you want to start to do something that may make it so that you don't have to make next month's mortgage payment, this is the thing to do. There's no better time than right now to turn your situation around. Call today, 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. Okay, I'm going to get into some of your comments, a few more regarding Biden, because I need you guys to say what I'm not allowed to say live. But it was weird. This person said, I'm thinking that doctors were heavily involved. This is MW. Heavily involved in the speech, and suggestions were taken to keep Joe stay on point and not stumbling on words. I've never, ever seen Joe Biden not stumble on his words. That's actually what made me uncomfortable. That's where I was like, that's not him, because, and usually even the inflection, Joe Biden at some point gets just like the, which we learned from a doctor on MSNBC is also a traditional sign of, what do they think he has, Parkinson's disease. So that was also missing. He was just robot-y, just way too even for me. This person, Saul, he just jumps in with something random. He says, Candace, research remote viewing CIA operation. I'm aware of that operation already. I've looked up every declassified CIA document, so you can't pass one on me. This person writes, facial paralysis on the left side, bruise on his chin, going through a list of accomplishments, not trying to be mean, but did he just give his own eulogy, as in he wants these to be his last words? This person, Sniper Babe, says, looks like this was 100% pre-recorded, and he looks fake like a doll. So AI is my vote. I actually would like to see, I've never seen what AI would look like if you made it give a speech. Like, can somebody who's way more technologically advanced than me, create an AI of my show? That would be really cool. Send that to me, because I would love to play that on the show so people can see why some people believe it's plausible that these things can be AI. See, I am not much into computers. I know that the AI recordings could be totally legit. And I believe that a lot of the stuff that we hear are, I personally believe that his call into headquarters the other day was an AI recording, but I'm not so certain on the videos. I don't know how advanced the AI videos have gotten, so you guys let me know. Last couple of comments here pertaining to Biden. Yaya writes, finally, a real cheap fake. This person, again, wears his wedding ring. And then this person says, hands are fake, robot arms, fingers are stiff. Candace is the actual black woman that we want. Thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. Okay, now, pertaining to what we were talking about earlier, pertaining to the shooting, and all of us very much surmising that this is somehow a deep state operation and that they did this in order for us to be thrust into war with Iran, because the elites do want war. And you guys, by the way, should be thinking along those lines. Like, you should be thinking along the lines of the elites want war. How am I protecting my family? Talia writes, Candace, please do an episode going over the details of Project 25. There are so many clips circulating on social media, and the facts are needed. I think you're referring to Project, is it 2025, right? Yes. I do want to look into that, because I feel like everyone just all at once started freaking out about that, and there were very few details on the internet. I know it came out of the Heritage Foundation. They tend not to write anything too insane, so I will look at that. Is it just a case of Republicans being too scared to stand by it because it's like voting season and everyone kind of turns into a neocon? Maybe. Or is it really as bad as CNN says it is? I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I promise you that I will. I'll do that for tomorrow's episode. Billy writes, I think I speak for a lot of people on how much we so appreciate that you do your show live. That transparency and honesty is what will help heal our country. Christ is King. Thank you. Rogue writes, hey, Candace, would you please look into Orthodox Christianity? It is the original church, which is older than the Catholic Church. Also, have you seen the British Trump rallies? Love you. Christ is King. Yes, I asked a lot of questions about the Orthodox Christian faith. I know that obviously the Great Schism. They view each other still like brother and sisters, and they think everybody else is a heretic. But I had some concerns about the priests being allowed to be married. So I'd love to hear you educate me on that. Would you want to confess to a priest who was married? Would you trust that he wouldn't tell his wife? I don't know. I've got questions about that. You guys let me know what you think. Lastly, this person writes, guys, don't get complacent. The election isn't yet won. That's exactly the same mistake that cost Hillary the election in 2016. Go out, vote, and ensure that Trump wins. Let's make America great again. Guys, these are some scary times. I want to say this in closing. These are some tremendously frightening times. A lot of things are happening, and it's very clear that our government is behind the agitation of the things that are happening, whether it's Trump's assassination attempt. Even today, by the way, I shared this on my Twitter and Facebook, and I want you guys to find that when you log off. Suddenly, you had the right acting like the left, and there's a kid who lights an American flag on fire, and the right is like, this is the left. Here's an image of him. Look at this. This is the left. And I'm like, have we already forgotten January 6th? Like, every time there is a protest anywhere, especially in DC, there are federal agitators. And I find this kid to be tremendously suspicious. Can you go back to the image of him? I want them to see this. Somebody identify who this is. Not because I want him to get arrested, but because I just would like to know what individual with cameras trained on him, you look on the right there, I think somebody identified that's the Daily Caller, feels so confident in what he's doing that he lights a fire without a mask on, dances around it, he seems to be alone if you go and find the footage, and then instantly causes people on the left and the right to start yelling at each other on the internet. Like, who is that confident? If you're a criminal, you usually cover your face, but this? Like, is it a bonfire? Like, yeah. And you can see he's just agitating a bit. And so my instinct, because I am realizing that, again, the left becomes the right and the right becomes the left, is to go, no, identify this person. Don't tell me that's a leftist. Prove to me that it's somebody on the left. Because I don't trust our government. I think the purpose is always to keep us warring within ourselves. Oh, it's left. Oh, it's the right. Also a perfect opportunity to sell to the American people that anybody that's against going to war on Israel's behalf with Iran, which is kind of what Netanyahu said, like, you got to go to war with us, like, we're your greatest allies. And no one ever explains what exactly it is that Israel does for us all the time, that they're our greatest allies. Like, forget you, England, everything that we've done with you guys, this country is our greatest ally. But you look at all that situation, you go, oh, how perfect, how absolutely perfect it is that just outside now there's even more of a reason to, I don't know, I guess just like hate Palestinians and want to, I guess, rush into a war with Israel. I don't even know what the point of that is. So let's first be clear on our facts before we share them, okay? Because you know I'm against burning the American flag. Nothing makes me more upset than that, but I also know when to check my emotions, and I always check my emotions as it pertains ever since January 6th, anything that gets out of hand in Washington, D.C. Because again, these are federal agitators everywhere. I'm going to show you that guy's face one more time. Identify this young man for me. Run it through your software. Tell me who he is. Who are his friends? What school does he go to? Where does he work? That he is this comfortable being filmed just lighting an American flag, which could have, it could have been an act of arson. It could have quite literally caused an issue. I mean, I'm sure he could be arrested for that, if considering there's damage to the sidewalk. Who is this confident doing that, if not a Fed? So again, guys, that is all I'm going to say in conclusion. Do your work. Help us out. Let's figure out who that is. But stay vigilant, and make sure you check out clubcandace.com. Get yourself a Candace cup to support this show. Go to locals. Even if you give 50 cents, look at the new Candace cup, guys. These are so great. Check these out. It's so great. Conspiracy theorists on the front, and on the back it says, don't care, built different, because it's my favorite thing ever that Andrew Tate said regarding how he ignores all data because he's realized that everyone's a bunch of midwits and they can't think logically about anything. They don't use their common sense. No one uses their gut instinct anymore. They have to be told what to do. They have to be told what they're even looking at. They're like, oh, look at this plant. I'm going to wait until somebody tells me it's a plant. And it's like, do you have eyes? Do you have ears? Don't you think it's weird that the government is trying to insist you roll up your sleeves and get a vaccine? You really think that the government loves you all of a sudden? Well, the obvious answer is no. And I don't care. I'm built different if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist. So join the club. If you yourself are built different, head to clubcandace.com. That is the second edition Candace Cup. Those two will be discontinued once we hit 3 million subscribers on YouTube. Love you guys so much. I'll miss you. I will see you tomorrow. We will be on at the right time live at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I'll see you guys then.